and we're moving into our final conversation for today. We've been taking the opportunity, checking in on Belizeans all over the world. And this is a familiar face you've seen with us here before, usually on stage at the Bliss, Jamie Thompson, joining us live from New York. Good morning.
Good morning.
And I almost want to say Jamie Thompson. I just think of you and I think of a dance move immediately.
Yes, you are allowed to do so. I would love to see that.
But how are you doing?
I am doing well. I'm grateful to say that to be able to say that I'm doing well. Corona-free, staying healthy, trying not to gain too much weight because life will resume at some point. So we want to make sure we stay in shape. But I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
So Jamie, one of the interesting things is definitely looking at how COVID-19 has impacted people of all sectors. We talk a lot about the business, we talk a lot about the health, but even the arts have suffered considerably. The last time you were here, you were able to share really great news that you were going to be performing on Broadway. And now everything's closed. Tell me about that and just, how you've been coping with all of that.
At first, when we received the notice that we would be on shutdown for the pandemic and social distancing, it was a little bit a sigh of relief because our show in particular is very difficult on the body. And our holiday season was quite rigorous. So we were doing multiple shows back to back, sometimes 10, 12, 14 shows consistently. And our bodies were suffering, and that's a natural part of the process. That's not unusual. However, when the break came, it was also the same time when people were struggling with ailments and getting small injuries during the show, myself just being extremely exhausted. And so it was a little bit of, thank God, we got a break, but then it got serious where we're like, oh, it's not just 2 weeks we're off. It's not just 3 months we're off. We're going to be off for the rest of the year, really. Yeah. It was a godsend at first. And then, as things progressed and people start losing their lives and they start affecting every area of our life, it's, the reality crept in. And so we've been doing well, I think, as an industry here in the US because they have unemployment services and the Senate passed a CARES Act that would increase unemployment benefits during the time of the pandemic. And so people are able, in some ways, to still maintain their economic stability during this time. So, besides the health scare and some of the, the social justice occurrences that are happening at this time, outside of those things, we're still able to maintain ourselves during this time.
I wanted to ask a little bit about how it was just experiencing the pandemic, being in New York, which of course was one of the first major hit areas in the United States and saw the biggest initial spike. So I'm wondering what your experience was like being in New York during that time. What was the atmosphere like, day-to-day life? What did you experience?
I'm pretty much still new to New York, but I've heard colleagues say that they've never seen New York this quiet. They've never seen New York this clean. It's a busy city, and they've been because people are quarantined and have to be in the house, and the streets are not as dirty, right? The train and the public transport, the transport authority took extra measures in making sure that things are super clean, which should have been the case anyway, right? But nevertheless, we're here now. Something as simple as grocery shopping. You have to go early, stand in line, and sometimes the lines are wrapped around the block, right? And then they will let 2 or 3 people in at a time. That part was a bit frustrating because you have people who are not socially aware. So they will come in and let's say it's the husband, wife, and grandma. coming to the grocery store. I'm like, the three of you really need to come to the grocery store when you're already social distancing. And then you're going to take your slow, sweet time to figure out what you're going to get. So those parts, that was really frustrating. But there's a way around that. We have a lot of, we have a couple good like grocery delivery services that you can get, and they're very inexpensive. Yeah. And so I've elected to do that so that I don't have to go stand in the line. And sometimes you need to get a lot of stuff so that you don't have to go to the grocery store twice a week or, for more than once for anything. So I found it more beneficial to order online and just order about a bunch of stuff and just sit in the house. Yeah. So that has been easy. I'm okay with not being in crowds. Other than like work mode, if I'm in performance or at an event, I can do it. But otherwise, if I don't have to be in a crowd, I won't be. And so, I am not suffering on the social front. I'm okay with being at home.
Some of us are good with isolation, right?
Yes, I am one of those people. I'm good with isolation. And, FaceTime, you get to catch up with people.
Yeah.
My friends from all over the world, you get to catch up with them. You get to go to sleep when you want. You get to eat what you want and feel guilty later, but not care because you're in quarantine. So.
Well, I was going to ask about that, but before I get there, staying on the serious side of it, there were a lot of lives lost in New York. And, some of the scariest stories that we first saw out of the U.S. was just what the hospitals looked like, the emergency tent in Central Park, just foreign ideas. Did you know anyone who was affected or who lost their lives? Did you have to see that battle firsthand?
A couple of my colleagues were affected by the disease, and fortunately for my immediate circle, no one lost their lives, and I'm grateful for that. But I've definitely had some people who were close to me in proximity in the times before the quarantine that they were affected. For a moment, I thought I had it myself earlier in the year because some of the symptoms I've had at some point. Being in a theater, being in a dressing room, there's so many of you in close quarters, and there's 150 people that works on our show daily. So there's no social distance opportunity there, and I know that some people were affected, but to this date, everyone's been past it now and no longer have the virus. So that has been my extent of my experience with that.
What makes you take it seriously? It's weird when you hear reactions from people in the United States, and we only get it through the media, of course, but where some just really think that it's no big deal, and you see images of crowded beaches and people not wearing masks. What made you, in your own personal experience, decide that this is something worthwhile of taking serious?
I think sometimes what I've learned about the culture here in the US is everyone, for example, in Belize, when you say hurricane season, they come and they said, okay, put up the shutters, do everything, everyone complies, right? Sure. There's no question, there's no fight against authority or fight against what the media is saying. And so they have a culture here of everyone gets to make their own decision, regardless of what the social movement is, or regardless of what the initial warning is, or regardless of what the family is doing. Everyone feels like, as an individual, I get to decide every single little thing. And I'm like, sometimes you kind of have to keep your mouth closed and just follow the rules. Yeah. And, and we've been raised that way, where if they're saying, don't go outside from this time to this time because this is quarantine. Yeah. This is, what's it called? Curfew. I'm accustomed to following rules, and I think it's a cultural difference where everything is up for debate. And I get that with a contemporary place like the US, in the technological advancements. It empowers individual people in many different ways. Being able to create a show on social media gives me the power, as if I am Tom Broker, one of these people who who run these big, or Oprah. It gives you the same platform, really. And so you think you have the power to make decisions, and that kind of bleeds over into other areas, such as making the best decision for your health, I think.
That's
I don't think anyone is just, I would hope that that is not the case where you just don't care about yourself and other people. I don't think that's what it is. I feel like it's been a practice to do what you want when you want to do it. And so when there are moments where you have to kind of hold hands with everyone and be in this together, there's not enough practice of that. And so it showed up in some of those states where they want to do what they want to do. Look at Florida. Yeah. You know, while New York is on the mend, they are still, you know, seeing an increase in cases.
That's an interesting perspective that you're sharing there. And I'm glad to know, because you said it, it's not everyone who's not taking it serious. There are some, but there are many who do in fact follow the guidelines by CDC in the US and are trying to be safe.
Yeah. But, you know, since you are taking it seriously, and you did say that you have been to a certain extent comfortable with the lockdown and isolation, it still must be on a certain level frustrating, or maybe you can use a different word, for you to not be able to practice your craft. What is that like?
You know, as I said at the first part, I was like, free vacation. Yeah. But then it got serious. I was like, oh, wait, I'm bored. Okay, what are we going to do now? So, you know, and one of the things that I love about our show is, and the people that I work with, it's like a family. So it's not just going to work. We can talk. We're talking. The minute we're not on stage, we're in a corner talking, or in the dressing room talking, playing video games. You know, it's a family feeling. And so I started to miss that. And so I've been doing a lot of TV watching, just catching up on shows, finding new hobbies. I'm taking online courses. I'm doing an online certification in business strategy, and that's taking up some of my time. I go for long walks. I run. Try to get some cardio in to stay in shape. I'm allowing myself the time to just be. You know, and that's something that I haven't had a lot of time to do since, you know, coming to the States a couple of years ago. I've always been on a mission, you know, and so right now there's no opportunity to accomplish anything other than inner peace and being healthy and staying healthy. I've been cooking a lot. So I've been cooking my rice and beans. I haven't perfected the Johnny cake yet, but I'm still working on it. But it's been, you know, I am pretty good with changes. And so, you know, the moments where I feel like, oh my gosh, I wish I could be on stage, I'll probably just, you know, pull out my mat and get on the floor, do some stretches. You know, sometimes I've also been, for some of the institutions that are still having their virtual programs, sometimes I pop in and teach a master class or two. And those requests are coming in a lot more. So I'm a lot more busy than I was at the beginning of the quarantine.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know, part of my question, reason why I asked is for you as a dancer, because your body is your instrument, you know, and it requires a certain level of constant maintenance and conditioning. So when you're not able to necessarily do it in the way that you've been used to practicing, is there a change? Is there a concern as to like how are you going to maintain that level of fitness and, you know, ability and stamina, all of that? So how has that, you know, been for you? Has it been mentally and physically and mentally? How has that been for you?
I think what it did for me, I had to separate what was materialistic in the process and what was necessary, right? So I came to the States and I studied dance at a university with state-of-the-art facilities. But I've also remember when I was in elementary school, I used to rehearse for Festival of Arts, and I would push the chairs aside on the concrete floor, roll up my front foot, and we had rehearsal, right? And so now I'm stuck at home. What do? If I want a bar, I would hold on to the island in the kitchen, or I would use one of the bar stools, or hold on to the back of the couch and do my ballet bar if that's what I want to do. Or there's a carpet on the floor, I have Pilates mat. You know, you get your yoga mat out, you get on the floor, do what you have to do, or you go to the park. Luckily, there's a park near my house that has a track and a football field, tennis courts, basketball court. And so, you know, you make it work. The thought did come to mind, and for me to realize how materialistic we can get in the arts industry sometimes. If my body is the instrument, then I just need to work with my body. I don't need to have a strong floor. It would be nice, It will be, for me to keep my body in shape. I just won't jump.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be jumping on the concrete. There's no replacement for my kneecaps, right?
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I keep those. But I don't need. I could if electricity goes out, I will hum and sing to myself as I work out. Like there's nothing that can stop you unless you physically cannot move. And so give me a lot of appreciation for the way I started dancing and the spaces that I've been working in, whether a performer or a teacher or a director. I think that there's no excuse, And so if I sit here and get out of shape, it's completely my fault. It's not quarantine's fault. It's not COVID's fault. That's just.
It'll be the Johnny Cake fault. That's what it'll be.
It will be the yes, it will be the Johnny Cake and rice and beans fault. But yes, I know it's difficult when it depends. Like if you're an artist, you need supplies and they're not delivering supplies, then I could understand that would be something that would impede the process. But for performers, all the exercises can be done in an empty room with just you in it, nobody else.
I got to tell you how great that sounds coming from you, just from all of us collectively who have a Belizean childhood of improvisation and imagination for all the things we wish we had. That's really what helps you in a time like this too. But out of curiosity, what is it in terms of job security for you? You worked really hard, and we're so proud that you made it to Broadway. Is it automatic that when things resume, you still have your slot? Is it going to be like re-auditioning? How does it work?
So for us, for me, I can't speak for anyone else, but once we resume, and the way we've been addressed by our producers and directors is that, we are in this together.
Okay.
And my contract was an ongoing contract. So, pardon me, there is no reason at this time for me to not return to the company. And that is how we've been communicating. And even those people who their contracts ended, they had an opportunity to extend earlier in the quarantine or to give their notice or whatever their personal choice was. So for me, I'm just waiting for us to say, okay, this is our new start date. And we'll be back in the swing of things. And I've worked so hard to be here, so they're going to have to work harder than that.
I know, I was thinking, I hope you still have that spot secured. And what about for you? I think around the world we're seeing everyone innovate, because they miss doing the things they love. They miss, whether it's entertainment, we've seen virtual concerts, all kinds of stuff. Do you think you'll see a Broadway in the streets or Broadway in the park or some kind of virtual combination before the end of the year?
There are some shows that are able, I know, for example, like Hamilton, through the Disney Plus app, the TV app, they will, July 3rd, I think they're airing a version of the musical, The Hamilton. I don't know about my show in particular or any of the shows that Disney produce, because a lot of times they're shaping it for another venue, for another viewing process will probably cost a lot more, and also will be outside of the artistic integrity of the show. And so I don't, so it's not as easy to just put it on TV, right? And there's just so many layers. I'm presuming that there's so many layers to go through in terms of getting permission, and there's a lot of work that went into the creation. I don't know if any of you've seen the show before, or any version of the show, but it's not something that can fit on the TV screen. It's really a three-dimensional performance. So I would be very surprised if we see The Lion King. Perhaps, I don't know. I'm not a part of the creative team, so I can't make any suggestions or suppose. But so far, I haven't heard or gotten a hint of any intention to do any such thing for our show. But I know there are other shows that may be on some internet or TV platforms.
And even though you're keeping up, with your fitness and all of that, what do you miss about actually being on the stage and performing in front of an audience?
The magic, You know, it's so funny. You wait until you get so far into your career as an artist to experience the magic. Because usually in our industry, it's such an upward hill battle in all industries. But when you get to a certain point, like the show that I'm in right now, and you're standing next to someone, singing next to someone who's from South Africa, and then somebody else is from a different country, or you have other people in the show who have their families are from the Caribbean. So there are certain things that just resonate within the group. In particular, I enjoy The Lion King because culturally we are all connected. The entire show are people of color, maybe one or two people who are not people of color, and so that energy you can't replace that. So I do miss, even when we're all tired, we're doing the eighth show for the week on that Sunday evening. There's just this energy that comes, and that when you meet each other on stage, it's different than when you meet each other at the bar, or meet each other on the street or in the park. That energy on stage where I am doing the thing that I believe that I was born to do. And so I do miss that energy, and you can't replicate it. You can't say, okay, let's pretend we're in the show and make it happen. It's not the same.
Yeah.
And so I do miss that energy that only happens when the curtain goes up.
Nice. Well, Jamie, we are so glad that you're doing well, and we wanted to check in on you and just see how things are going, and it's good to hear from you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you for sharing your experience.